अगर आपको पाइथन के क्वेश्चंस लगाने थे, यू प्रेफर लीड कोड, Python and SQL for both. And for Spark, you used one PDF that you are going to share with us. Then,
Definitely.
yes, apart from this, you use either Jupyter Notebook, Databricks Notebook, any notebook or a PyCharm IDE
Anything for Spark practice, correct?
for Spark practice. ऑल राइट, तो आज हम अपना दूसरा पॉडकास्ट शूट करने वाले हैं और हमारे गेस्ट यहाँ पे आ चुके हैं, शुभम सचदेवा, जो कि हमारे रेजर पे में सीनियर डेटा इंजीनियर हैं। तो चलिए आज उन्हीं से उनके बारे में जानते हैं और उनकी जर्नी के बारे में जानते हैं, उन्होंने कैसे यहाँ तक अपनी जर्नी को कंटिन्यू रखा है, एंड वो उनके कुछ इंसाइट्स को जानते हैं। अगर उन्होंने कुछ इंटरव्यू प्रिपरेशन करा या एक कंपनी से दूसरे कंपनी में स्विच किया, तो इन सब चीज़ों के लिए उन्होंने कैसे प्रिपेयर किया और कौन कौन सी ऐसी स्टडी मटेरियल थी जो कि उन्होंने फॉलो किया, और उनकी जर्नी से कुछ सीखने की हम कोशिश करेंगे। तो चलिए, वेलकम शुभम टू द चैनल एंड थैंक यू फॉर कमिंग, थैंक यू फॉर गिविंग योर टाइम। सो अब हम स्टार्ट करते हैं अपने पॉडकास्ट को। तो सबसे पहले हम शुभम से जानना चाहेंगे उनके एक्सपीरियंस के बारे में, उनके इंट्रोडक्शन के बारे में। तो ओवर टू यू शुभम, आप अपने बारे में कुछ बताइए एंड आप अपनी जर्नी के बारे में, कौन कौन सी कंपनी में आपने काम किया, आपकी एक्सपीरियंस कैसी रही हर एक कंपनी में।
So cool. So as you know, my name is Shubham Sachadeva. So talking about my professional experience, Razorpay is my second company. I joined here about like 4 months back, and इससे पहले मैंने एक कंपनी में काम किया with ZS Associates. I joined there in early 2019, and I spent over like 3.5 years over there. And after that, I was looking for some change, so I started preparing for different interviews, and after that, I got a chance to interview at Razorpay. And like after I think it took about 4 rounds, and then I started working here. मेरा जो major experience है, it's in like Spark, Hive, SQL, mostly in big data side पे ही है. And why I selected data engineering is like I think data engineering kind of selected me because I was just looking for a job at the beginning of 2019, right? पहला project जो मिला that was on big data, right? And from there I basically took up interest in big data, right? How the data works, how to get good insight out of it. That is what intrigued me, and so I continued on that path. And yep, it's been almost 4 years now.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for sharing those insights. Okay. सो लाइक अभी आपने बताया कि आपने 2 कंपनीज में काम करी है, जेडएस एसोसिएट्स एंड रेजर पे। तो सबसे पहले आप क्योंकि आपने रेजर पे में भी 2-3 महीने बिता लिए होंगे, ऑलमोस्ट
4 महीने हो गए।
4 महीने हो गए, हाँ। तो अभी जैसे आपने सर्विस बेस्ड से एक प्रोडक्ट बेस्ड कंपनी में स्विच किया है, तो एज अ क्या आपको डिफरेंस क्या लगता है कि सर्विस बेस्ड एंड प्रोडक्ट बेस्ड में क्या डिफरेंस है, एंड अगर कोई अपना करियर स्टार्ट कर रहा है एंड इफ ही हैज बोथ द चॉइस, व्हिच वन शुड ही गो फॉर?
See, both the type companies have their like pros and cons, right? Product based company में क्या होता है major like you start working on one particular thing and that is what you work on for the rest for a very long period of time, right? कि हाँ यही चीज है, you'll start working on it, you'll enhance it, develop it, and mostly like you have a very narrow path to go forward, and it's a good as well because you can build your expertise in that area. Working on a service based company, you are mostly dependent on what client wants. Client को क्या चाहिए आपसे, राइट? उसको उसको कोई मैट्रिक जनरेट करनी है, कोई डैशबोर्ड वगैरह बनवाना है, तो वो उसकी रिक्वायरमेंट आएगी, और कोई एनालिसिस करना है. सो इन प्रोडक्ट बेस्ड कंपनी you basically depends on what client needs, उस पर आप काम करते हो, but you get to work on many different things. तो उसमें एक्सपोजर काइंड ऑफ थोड़ा ज्यादा मिलता है, जो मेरा एक्सपीरियंस है. इन प्रोडक्ट बेस में क्या रहेगा कि ओके यू हैव वन स्ट्रेट पाथ, लाइक दिस इज व्हाट यू विल वर्क ऑन, बट उसमें तुम सब्जेक्ट एक्सपर्टीज यू कैन बिल्ड इट वेरी एक्सटेंसिवली. वहां पे तुम बहुत अच्छा एक्सपीरियंस गेन कर सकते हो इन केस ऑफ subject matter expertise.
Hmm.
So what I would think is, uh, when you're starting your career, right, you don't want to limit your
Potential.
the kind of things that you work on, है ना?
हाँ.
Correct. तो क्लाइंट बेस में थोड़ा तुम्हें रहता है कि हाँ यू माइट गेट टू वर्क ऑन डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ थिंग्स, तो ज्यादा एक्सपोजर मिलता है, एंड दैट्स हाउ यू फाइंड आउट लाइक व्हाट इज किस चीज में तुम्हारा इंटरेस्ट है, एंड फ्रॉम
हम्म.
देयर यू कैन सिलेक्ट दैट पाथ.
अच्छा.
So that I think, as for a beginner, I think
हम्म.
service based company थोड़ा सही रहेगा.
ओके. ओके.
But that's my opinion.
या. यस, ऑफ कोर्स.
Hmm.
Everyone has a different perspective.
Exactly.
या. सो लाइक आपने जब रेजर पे ज्वाइन किया तो इससे पहले आपके पास मल्टीपल ऑफर्स थे या फिर आपके पास सिर्फ एक ही ऑफर थे?
So I had 4 offers in hand at the time,
हम्म.
like four proper offers, and then बाकी कुछ ऐसे offers नहीं थे, but it was something like I gave the interviews, I cleared all the rounds. Final
हम्म.
HR discussion में they asked like how much you expecting, and I
हाँ.
told them कि हाँ मेरे पास at least इतना, तो this is what I have right now, this is the max I have right now, so I
हम्म.
would at least expect something higher or at least equal to that.
ओके. हाँ.
Right, equal हुआ तो then I can take a decision based on the company.
हम्म.
Right. So in that case, they backed out कि like नहीं इतना we don't usually offer for
हम्म.
that experience. So then they backed out. So basically, yeah,
आपने
interview
बजट
सब
हाई
किए थे,
सेट कर
but they
दिया था.
kind of like at least, yeah. Even I would agree. So even right now, right, when I joined Razorpay, I had a offer which they were paying me basically like 2-3 lakhs more a year. But that was again now a service-based company, and at that time I was looking for a product-based company, right? So like,
ओके.
चलो ठीक है, let's join Razorpay, and because that was meeting my expectations, like in terms of work,
हम्म.
I was like, okay, at that point, like 2-3 lakh doesn't really matter. So I thought, yeah, guys, let's go with Razorpay.
एनीवे 30% ब्रैकेट में 1 लाख तो टैक्स में ही चला जाएगा.
Exactly.
ओके. ठीक है. तो अभी आपने इतने सारे ऑफर तो फोड़े, तो आपने यहाँ पे क्वेश्चन है कि आपने प्रिपरेशन कैसे करी थी, अगर आप डिटेल में एक्सप्लेन कर पाओगे, क्योंकि ये वाला क्वेश्चन जो होगा सबसे ज़्यादा लोगों को हेल्प करेगा कि आपने कैसे प्रिपरेशन की स्ट्रैटेजी क्या थी, आपने कहाँ से क्वेश्चंस लगाए, कहाँ से अगर कुछ थियोरेटिकल पार्ट थे तो उसको कवर किया, और इन जनरल जो भी आपने वेबसाइट फॉलो की, रिसोर्सेज फॉलो किए, मे बी लिंक्डइन के कुछ लोगों को फॉलो किया, कुछ भी हो सकता है. सो आई एक्सपेक्ट यू टू आंसर दिस इन वेरी मच डिटेल.
Okay. So what I would say is, at the time I started looking for a job change, right? The primary thing that I have in my mind is, since I'm looking for a data engineer role, right? I
करेक्ट.
knew at that time my SQL is, I would say it's fairly good. Like I don't need too much to work on that area, right? But Spark की case, and second thing was Spark. So Spark की case में I knew I had practical knowledge काफी अच्छा था उसमें, but I still needed to figure out some theoretical knowledge, build up my
ओके.
theoretical knowledge, right? Because interviews में वही majorly पूछते हैं वो लोग. They might ask you some questions based on Spark etc. But वो theoretical भी पूछते हैं, like partitioning and coalesce में क्या difference है, etc. Right? So these types of things I need to figure out. And third was Python. Python में I had a very like minimal exposure. बहुत उसमें थोड़ा बहुत काम किया था, and but I needed to more like work upon that. So
ओके.
that was in my mind. Like I need to improve on Python quite a lot, and in Spark I need to build up theoretical knowledge.
ओके.
These are the 2 pointers that I had in my mind. उसके बाद coming to the how I prepared for these.
Okay,
I'm
before
sorry,
going to that
you're saying
question,
something?
I have one question. Yeah. So, like, apart from these three
Hmm.
technology, did you choose anything else also? Like Spark, you said Spark, Python, SQL. Apart
Hmm.
from this, did you look for any other technology too?
Yes, थोड़ा बहुत I would say like स्टोरेज बेसिस पे हो गया, लाइक HDFS S3, थोड़ा बहुत उनकी डेवलप उनका बिल्ड करना. एंड एट दिस पॉइंट इन टाइम एवरी डेटा इंजीनियर एक्सपेक्टेड टू नो सम बेसिक्स, एटलीस्ट बेसिक्स ऑफ AWS,
Okay.
AWS और GCP और
Mm-hmm.
Azure, राइट?
Okay.
सो मेरा Azure एंड AWS में भी आई वुड से आई न्यू फ्यू थिंग्स, बट आई वुडंट से कि हाँ मुझे पता है अच्छे से,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
राइट? तो दैट वाज वन एडिशनल पॉइंट कि हाँ थोड़ा बहुत उस साइड पे भी आई नीड टू स्टडी एंड बिल्ड माय नॉलेज, राइट,
But you
बिकॉज
did
इंटरव्यूज में
work on
पूछेंगे
that.
थोड़ा बहुत.
हाँ.
Yes, I did.
Okay. ठीक.
So when I started preparing for that, right, few things was like uh, going through the interview experience, like Lead Code and Geeks for Geeks or Glassdoor. Is where you will find out how the interview goes for different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
थोड़ा बहुत वहां पे रीड कर सकते हो. Like every time I'm interviewing for a company, right, I'll definitely go सर्च कि उसके इंटरव्यूज में क्या क्या पूछते हैं, just to get a basic idea. I wouldn't focus too much on it. Just spend like 15-20 minutes before the interview कि क्या क्या क्वेश्चन पूछ सकते हैं, just to get in that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started like preparing for it, mainly I would say lead code was, I would say, my primary uh, knowledge building, primary thing that I use for knowledge building, right?
Mm-hmm.
Questions वगैरह करना. So because hands-on is very much needed in case of like Python and PySpark,
Mm.
right? Hands-on नहीं है तो it's very difficult to convince the interviewer that you know these things,
हाँ.
right?
Correct.
So that was कि Python पे hands-on experience काफी चाहिए था. Second was building knowledge on Spark. So there
Mm.
are a lot of like PDFs available on the internet which you can take up. I used one called Comprehensive Study for Spark, something like
Okay.
that. ऐसा कुछ नाम है उसका.
Okay.
And I started going through that. It's about like 100 pages PDF. So even if you cover, like I myself covered like first 40 pages, I didn't go past that.
If
First
you
40
have the
pages is good
link,
enough.
yeah. If you have the link,
I have
can you please share? Like I will
I
be
have
putting
it
this
on my
into the
laptop.
description. Yeah, later on point you can
Perfect.
share with us.
Yeah, I'll share that with you.
हाँ.
Even I got that from a friend itself. Like he shared
Okay.
that with me. कि, like हाँ इसमें PySpark का काफी अच्छा बता रहा था. So I was like cool.
Okay.
Uh, so Spark, like I told you, like Spark, में I needed theoretical knowledge. So skill that PDF was really good. I used to
Okay.
go through that PDF, कुछ uh, try something as well, like Databricks or PyCharm पे, uh,
Mm-hmm.
PyCharm or Jupyter or whatever you have. वहाँ पे थोड़ा बहुत कुछ जाके try कर लिया.
Okay. So for
Right, because
hands-on,
like I told.
you used to either use Databricks notebook or Jupyter notebook or sometime PyCharm, correct?
Correct, exactly. और बाकी अगर if you're using lead code for Python practice or even SQL as well, so
Mm-hmm.
lead code पे directly you have console and you
Directly.
can
हाँ.
test it there. So lead code is, I think, was the, in case of Python, lead code was number one. In case of Spark, I used that PDF that I told you. उसके अलावा AWS और GCP or whatever. Like my focus was AWS. So उसमें like just go on the internet, search for the interview questions, or even in case of AWS, you can find like quick PDFs, like 20-30 pages long PDF,
Mm-hmm.
which will cover the basics. I wouldn't say it will cover all because AWS is very vast.
हाँ हाँ.
20-30
Correct.
page में that cannot be covered. So that is, you can take up like Google तो है ही. You can just
हाँ
go there and read anything, right?
हाँ हाँ.
YouTube videos are there, which will in 20-30 minutes they'll give a lot of information in case of AWS. So that you can take up any method, but my personal choice was like lead code, uh, PDF, and a little bit Google.
ठीक
So
है.
हाँ, उस case में that was really interesting. Then when going for the interview, like it is in case of some companies, right? Even HR will tell you, like HR will coordinate the interview, right?
हाँ
Even
हाँ.
they'll tell you कि what kind of question they'll ask, the interviewer will ask. थोड़ा
हाँ हाँ.
बहुत वो भी कई बार गाइडेंस दे देते हैं, एंड दैट इज वेरी हेल्पफुल. एंड आई हैव
हाँ.
नोटिस दैट कि कुछ कुछ इंटरव्यूज में तो लाइक दे जस्ट पॉइंटेड इट आउट कि हाँ इस टाइप के ही क्वेश्चन पूछेंगे एंड यू कैन फोकस ऑन दैट
अच्छा.
इटसेल्फ. सो दैट वाज रियली
वो कौन सी कंपनी थी जिससे कि लोगों को पता रहे?
इन माय केस अमेज़न में ऐसा हुआ था.
ओके.
लाइक द पैचर इटसेल्फ टोल्ड कि ये तीन चीजों से रिलेटेड ही क्वेश्चन पूछेंगे. एंड other than that they have some like principles of the AWS Amazon. तो वो भी
हाँ. 14
when you
प्रिंसिपल
start
आई
into
थिंक. हाँ.
14 principle or something, right? So वो भी वो बता देते हैं कि they'll focus on these or 3 or 4 principles.
अच्छा.
So you can prepare your stories, your thoughts in that area.
करेक्ट. ठीक है।
उसके अलावा आई थिंक या दिस इज द प्राइमरी थिंग आई फोकस फॉर प्रिपेयरिंग, आई वुड से। हाँ।
सो मैं यहाँ पे सम अप कर देता हूँ। आपने
ओके।
तीन तीन या चार टेक्नोलॉजी बताई। एक बताया आपने पाइथन, सिक्वल, स्पार्क, और एक बताया आपने कोई भी क्लाउड सर्विस
कुछ भी
प्रोवाइडर।
क्लाउड।
यस।
एग्जैक्टली।
तो ये चार चीज आपने किया। और अगर आपको पाइथन के क्वेश्चंस लगाने थे, यू प्रेफर्ड लीड कोड, Python and SQL for both. And for Spark, you used one PDF that you are going to share with us. Then,
डेफिनेटली।
yes, apart from this, you use either Jupyter Notebook, Databricks Notebook, any notebook, or a PyCharm IDE
एनीथिंग फॉर
for
स्पार्क प्रैक्टिस, करेक्ट।
Spark practice. I think that was all correct.
करेक्ट, एग्जैक्टली।
Okay. And some YouTube tutorial or some blogs on internet for CSP, Cloud Service Provider. Correct?
एग्जैक्टली, यप यप।
ओके। सो अभी हम थोड़े आते हैं पैसे पे, क्योंकि पैसे कितने मिलते हैं ये भी जानने जरूरी है लोगों को। सो
यप,
पहले
दैट इज
स्टार्ट,
इम्पोर्टेंट।
या क्योंकि काम कर रहे हैं तो वो सबसे ज्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है। तो सबसे पहले आई वुड नॉट आस्क यू एग्जैक्ट नंबर, बट यू कैन गिव अस अ रेंज कि what was the salary offered by Razorpay and what was the salary offered by another four firm that you were like you had an offer from.
ओके, सो द फर्स्ट ऑफर I got was Nike, again वहाँ पे
Acha,
डेटा
before
इंजीनियर का
that,
रोल था।
I wanted to ask another question. Sorry to interrupt you. So, where did what was the salary when you started your career?
When I started, it was just very basic. At that time, I think ZS was offering somewhere like 5.5 as base,
Okay,
right? And on top of that, you have some additional things. But yeah, that was the base.
we can consider 6 or 650, correct?
As a CTC, yes, 650 may
Six.
be correct.
Ah, okay. Now coming to the question that we had earlier. Yeah.
Okay, so when I started preparing for these things and
Mm-hmm.
looking for different jobs, right? At that time, I was in, I would say, roughly like 12 to 14, that in that bracket.
Mm-hmm.
The base part
Mm-hmm.
was in like 12 to 14 bracket. And then I again uh, started for like interviews. And at that time, there was again increment coming in the coming months at CS itself.
Mm-hmm.
So at that time, I started. It was in 12 to 14 bracket. Then coming to the offer letter, right? The first offer I got was Nike. They were offering in like lower 20s, in that area, like 21,
Okay.
22, 23, in that
Mm-hmm.
area.
Mm-hmm.
They were offering the base part. On top of that, again, you have like some joining bonus, or sometimes you have retention bonus, shares, etc. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that was the base part. And that was the first offer I got. I got Amazon's number first. And again, with Amazon, what happened was when I started for interviewing, they had the data engineering opening. But by the time I completed all the interview process, it would took about like 2.5 weeks. At that time, all the data engineer post would fill.
Okay.
So there, the discussion went like you can join as a business intelligence, BI, Tableau, Click,
Mm-hmm.
etc.
Mm-hmm.
And after 6 months or so, when a data engineering post open up, we'll convert you there. So
Okay.
you'll join as a BI, but then we'll make you data engineer once position opens up.
Mm-hmm.
And then they gave me a number again. It was in 23 to 25, in that range, the base part. And then they were offering some shares, uh, joining bonus, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Then I got Razorpay's offer, and they were offered similar to what Amazon was offering at that initially, like lower, I would say mid to mid to mid 20, somewhere around that area, like 23 to 25. Then at that time, like I told you, right, Razorpay took about like 3 to 4 weeks to give me their number, right?
Mm-hmm.
I started interviewing for another company named McKinsey. It's again a consulting service-based company, right?
Yes.
So they offered me, I would say, like I think higher upper 20s, like
Mm-hmm.
in like 28, 29 base area. So then so when I got that offer, I again reached back to the Razorpay HRs, right, saying that like, yeah, this is the new offer I have in my hand, right? Can we discuss on this? So she set up some time. We discussed this. She mentioned like, yeah, this is usually too high
Okay.
for their bracket. So yeah, so we negotiated a bit. So and it ended up being lesser than McKinsey. But like I told you, right, at that time I
Okay.
was looking for a product-based company. So yeah, that is what I went with.
Okay. So like you were talking about the base part. What would be the overall CTC range? I'm not asking again the
Okay.
number, but you can give us the range.
So it will vary quite a lot. So base. So there are a few
Base for
components to it, right?
I'm asking for Razorpay only because you are
Razor
currently
family,
working in
right?
Razorpay. Yeah.
Correct. So again, like I told you, there are multiple factors to it. One is the base part, one is the joining bonus. Then you have shares or sometimes like ESOPs or etc. Right?
Mhm.
So these are the few things or year-end bonus. So these all will contribute to your final CTC. Even I don't know the exact number. I would, to be honest, like I know a rough number. So it was base plus if I talk about CTC, right? The first year CTC would come around, I would say in like 33 to 35 range, roughly, if you include every single thing, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, from the second year onwards, you don't have the joining bonus. You cannot
So
include the joining bonus. Right? So then
yeah.
it come down.
So you got almost 200% high, correct? Almost.
Rough, not
Rough.
200, yeah, like 150 to 150 to 100%, yeah,
Ah,
including everything. Yeah. But in terms of base, I would say it's like yeah, 100% increment, I would say, roughly.
acha. Ab I have another question. Let me open up the question. These are
Mhm.
those will be quick one. Uh,
Mhm.
okay. So the first question would be, you can consider this as a what we say, rapid fire. So who approached
Okay.
you? Like you approached the company or some HR person approached you for Razorpay? So all the questions would be
For
around
Razorpay,
Razorpay.
okay, I applied on LinkedIn.
Okay,
I
you
saw an
applied through
opening. I
LinkedIn.
just applied. I was very skeptical that even they'll call back, but they did. So yeah, happy, good for me.
Okay. How many rounds were there?
So the first email that I got, it mentioned 5 rounds. But
Okay.
when I started interviewing, right, they merged the second and the third round. So it ended up being 4 rounds only.
Okay. And how long it was every round?
Mm, roughly between like 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay. And all the rounds were technical only or some managerial, some HR? How was it?
So first two were technical,
Mm-hmm.
fully technical. Third was kind of like I would say techno managerial. They
Okay.
asked some technical question, but mostly it was managerial. And the
Mm-hmm.
last one was very short. It was like 30-minute round. It was with the senior director. So yeah,
Okay.
that was completely managerial. Basically, last round was just talking,
Acha.
just chatting with
So,
the person.
mhm. So in the third round, you had a techno managerial round, correct? So we talked
Correct.
about technology, but what kind of managerial question they ask?
Managerial question they could ask like, how was your experience, past experience, right? Why are you looking for a job change? Like at that time, I was working at CS for over 3.5 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they mentioned like, why why are you looking for a change now? You've been there for 3.5 years. You have a repo there now. So why are you looking for
Mm.
a change? That kind of questions. Or they might give you some hypothetical scenario. Like, for example, there's a problem, your senior has someone approach to solve it, and you have another approach to solve it,
Mm-hmm.
right? But your senior is kind of pushing it back, your approach back. So how would
Mm.
you present yours? That kind of situation, like hypothetical situation, and just they want to see your response, how your thought process is, how would you react to this type of thing, etc.
Anyway, the viewer got 3 to 4 questions from here. They, they they will have some idea like what kind of question they are asking. Okay. Now the next
Okay.
question is, what tip will you give to candidate who is applying for Razorpay?
For Razorpay, okay, so basically, what I would suggest is whenever you're applying for an position, right? Maybe a senior data engineer, or whatever. Read the JD very clearly. Make sure that what you want to do and that JD is aligning up, because that is what they'll focus on, right?
Okay.
Because that JD defines what type of person that they are looking for, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they are
Yeah.
asking for example, GCP, specific GCP, but you know AWS, so definitely there'll be a clash. Make sure you first thing is read the JD very clearly. That's the one thing. Second, I would say if you're applying for a data engineer, right? Uh, Basics would be like SQL, like for any data engineer at
Mm-hmm.
any company, SQL is a very must. Should know the concepts of SQL, how the join works, right? Join is very critical. They will try to puzzle you up in case of joins very
Mm-hmm.
much.
Acha.
Then comes the Spark or Python, Databricks, etc. All these things, right? So make sure you read the JCP, the JD very clearly. SQL is a must. After that comes like Spark or AWS or DB management, etc. These are secondary. So SQL one, Spark second, and Cloud I would say third. That is the thing. These are the
Okay.
things that they should focus on.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes people also want to know what is the working hour at Razorpay. So,
So far, in the last 4 months, it's been like fairly good, I would say. I usually start working at around like 10:30 roughly. And by 7, like the work is done sometime even early. But yeah,
mm,
at 7, I just mark myself as offline.
10 to 7, we can assume that.
Yeah, mostly yes. But yeah, there was like 1 or 2 days where it went past that, like somewhere
That
like
are
10:30, 11
exceptional.
as well.
Ah,
That is exceptional. Like in
yeah.
4 months, if there were only 2 days, I think I'm very happy.